We are the Org. Our mission is to assimilate Star Trek The Next Generation, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and beer. Lots of beer.
Hello, friend!
Hello! And welcome to bOrgCast 11.5 with Peter and Anne-Marie. Tonight's first episode is Statistical Probabilities.
Can a group of mutants...
They want to find out what makes our genetically engineered brains tick.
...alter history?
So then you agree with our conclusion,
We're all as good as dead.
On the next Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
Which rather unfairly labels them as mutants straight away.
Yeah.
Uneasy about that. It's bad enough when they do it in the episode, but... Yeah, mutants, really?
Well, yeah, they are, because their DNA has been mutated.
I suppose. Yeah, but still
So
it
they're
feels
not-
a bit harsh. Doesn't it?
They're not mutants in the sense of, like, X-Men, which is a natural mutation. This is artificial mutation of DNA.
Yes. Whereas a mutant, for me, generally means something that's happened as a result naturally rather than artificially. An artificial mutant doesn't make any sense to me. But anyway, that's just me.
Yeah. Now, there's some things I didn't cap because I was too distracted by the cat attempting and failing to eat a pork scratching.
This is the fun life we lead.
Yes, so you're going to have to help me a little bit in the beginning. Mm-hmm. So there is a doctor, I didn't catch her name.
Okay, she's Lieutenant Lowe's.
And she's with some genetically modified people.
Yeah, the Jack Pack. as they're known.
And they're in an institute. And she's done it so that they're separated from other inmates, but they are very much institutionalised.
Yes.
And they've been brought to the station, I think in a cargo bay.
This is the sad fact. Yes, originally these scenes were going to be in the wardroom, but that proved too small a set. And actually having them in the cargo bay says something about the way Starfleet treats them, so it's significant by accident in a way.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not good, is it? Particularly you've got like beds around the side. It's like, oh, they're sleeping in a cargo bay. That's mean.
Yeah.
No privacy from one another.
No. They've come to meet Dr. Bashir in the hope they can meet someone who's normalised, to see that perhaps they have a contribution to make to society. But they're all upset initially when they arrive. There's a high-pitched noise that Jack can hear that's clearly causing him distress. They're upset because they're out of their normal environment. I wonder, even in these early stages, were they consulted or were they told? Quite
why the Lieutenant Lowe's has to leave isn't explained, because it's clearly distressing Patrick, if nobody else.
Yeah.
He wants her to stay, and it's like, well, why does she have to leave? I mean, is this having a break? Because if so, they don't mention it. There's this idea that somehow they're interacting with Bashir, but that doesn't necessarily mean she can't be there, surely. So,
yeah.
Except, of course, if she was there, then she'd put pay to what happens later on, so... That's kind of the artificial setup, isn't it?
Unless it is that she needs a break.
Uh-huh.
Which would in some ways fit that.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, and that would be understandable.
Say it.
Exactly, they need to say that, don't they?
So anyway, Jack's upset. He stamps on a pad, and then when he passes it to her, he sort of pulls the broken glass back and cuts her hand.
That makes me go ill every time. That's horrible. That.
And she says, "Jack, I know you're upset, but there are better ways of expressing it." So he clearly struggles to articulate his emotions and to cope with his emotions. And he's also clearly got... I don't know whether it's right to call it sensory processing disorder, because it could just be he has enhanced senses, full stop. But he is struggling in that environment. And Patrick is also struggling, but he shows it in a way that I suspect is easier for people to bear, in that it's cuter, but he's clearly infantilised.
Yeah.
And then you've got Serena, who's mute and doesn't interact particularly. You have to look for very, very slight gestures from her.
And there's Lauren,
who I recognise.
Yes. Okay, so fingering the bit parts.
Well, I don't know, because I recognised her. So maybe it's
who are you? Oh, I haven't used this in a while. Splendid. Okay, played by Hilary Shepherd. She was also the Benzite in charge of the runabout that was shot down in the ship.
I'm unlikely to know her from that, to be fair. You know me, I don't recognise people behind makeup as
well. Well, about the only other significant part she played, and I'm not sure you've seen this, is she was in Power Rangers as Divatox in the world's skimpiest costume ever.
No, she must have been something else I've seen her in.
Well, there was something else that jumped out at me. I find her a bit OTT in this. I kind of wish she'd dialed it back a bit, but there we are. Then you've got Patrick's played by Michael Keenan, who we have seen before. He was the weird Scottish alien in charge of planet Scotchland in Sub Rosa.
Oh, right, okay.
He was also in that quite good Voyager episode based on Beowulf.
Don't remember that one.
Yeah, it's good. Not a bad one, actually, for Voyager.
The Voyager did have some good episodes, but I don't remember that one.
And this was... He'd done Next Generation, he'd done Voyager, and this was him, as he said, completing the Holy Trinity. And I like... He's really sweet in this. It's a very endearing, childlike performance, isn't it?
Yeah. I know that these are people who have been genetically engineered, but I can't help personally but see parallels with autism. Particularly with the idea, which is gaining ground, of neurodivergence, which is the idea that people with autism are significantly better than average at certain things. Something that Google knows and will deliberately hire autistic people. And there's a company in Sweden, phone company. I want to say Nokia, but I might have got it wrong.
Weren't Nokia Finland, I thought?
I'm not sure. I might have the wrong phone company, but there is a phone company that deliberately hires autistic people because they are more accurate and because they are very highly focused on one thing. But people with autism also have sensory difference, which can cause problems in that horribly brightly lit, noisy, high-pitched whining cargo bay, and with no privacy and no way to screen yourself off from other people. A horrible environment of wrongness and yuckness, even for somebody without any kind of additional...
Which is never once commented on, and I find that quite uncomfortable. I would have thought Bashir would have said something at some point. I mean, he talks about the way that their abilities aren't being utilised and they're marginalised because of that, but there's the whole setup of how they're being treated here, which is clearly wrong.
Yes.
But he doesn't say anything. It's like, well...
Well, I wonder whether you bear in mind the conversation that happens round Cisco's. I wonder whether actually he can't. In other words, it would take, as unfortunately it sometimes does with people with any kind of disability, it sometimes takes an advocate who doesn't have that disability to be listened to before the people with the disability themselves can be heard. And so I wonder whether, therefore, Bashir doesn't actually have much more of a voice, and it would take, for example, Cisco to highlight their plight and be heard before anybody might listen to Bashir and then the people concerned. It's the way power play works. And it's why, if you're in a position of privilege, you need to use it.
Yep.
So I'm not... Bashir obviously has more privilege because he's been allowed to stay in Starfleet, but I'm not sure he has enough privilege to give him sufficient leverage in this situation.
Yeah, he's in a precarious position, obviously, because he shouldn't really be in Starfleet, so according to their rules. Yeah,
so I just wonder whether what ought to happen is that Cisco should be moved or O'Brien should be moved. Do you see what I mean? Or Dax is a 800 or whatever it is year old Trill. Do you know what I mean? With just generally more life experience, who you would think therefore would be... Because she's very open-minded as a result of having been so long-lived, so you kind of think that maybe she should recognise it. So yes, it's sad. It's sad that it's not commented on. I mean, it's interesting that, for example, with the issue of noise, it takes Bashir to say there is a noise before anyone will do anything.
Yeah, and it's not like it takes much to sort it out either, because there's some engineers are sent in, and they can't find the problem. And all it takes is for Miles whipping his tricorder out, and he immediately locates the problem.
Well, no, because Bashir says it's probably an X,
yeah,
so he
he's given
refines it.
But even so, I kind of have a feeling that if it was that easy, the other engineers should have sorted it out, but never mind.
They should have done, but they didn't listen. They came in, they said they couldn't hear anything, and they
What a bunch
off.
of loons, and then walked out.
Yeah, I think so. And so you have the aforementioned meal party, whatever it is, round Cisco's, and you've got Bashir saying, there, but for the grace of God go I. His genetic engineering was done by a sufficiently skilled doctor. They've all got side effects.
Yeah.
So they are all highly, highly intelligent, but there's an area where they are in deficit. But it's not the same for all of them. And the Institute on its own wasn't a sufficiently stimulating environment. It's now better, but I'm not sure that that's enough if it's still an institute.
Mm.
And he does talk about, maybe they might live an independent life, but whether or not they're independent isn't so much the issue. What should matter is, are they fulfilled, are they respected, and are they happy? And it could be that all three things of those apply, but they still need some kind of assistance with daily living. And to focus too much on independence and not whether or not they feel fulfilled and happy and whether or not they have respect, I think is taking the wrong tack.
Mm-hmm.
You need a combination, I think. And he's saying, can't they live a normal life? Why should they be excluded because of what their parents did? And everyone says, it gives them an unfair advantage, and they talk about the eugenic wargs, and they don't mention Khan, but, that's obviously what they're thinking of.
They're referring to, yeah.
And just went wrong, which is true. And then, they're like, Bashir's, you're an exception. And he's like, I've spent my whole life being an exception. And he's grumpy, he's clearly out of sorts, which is understandable. And they've been waiting for Damar to make some announcement. And then he goes back down to see them because he's kind of... They hack into the comm system, which is quite amusing. Reminds me of that one with Pooh-Card, whatever that was, in Next Gen, and they hacked into the comm system.
Yeah, well, that was Neutral Zone, wasn't it?
I can't remember.
Yeah, where the horrible banker chap hacks in. Well, he doesn't hack in that case. He just notices how they use the panels. So.
Yeah. So anyway, they've hacked in. So he goes and he comes and he finds Jack threatening to kill Serena in order to get the noise to stop. So Bashir's like, if you don't let her go, when the engineers come, I'm just going to tell them the noise has gone away now. He's able to get O'Brien to come, and the moment that O'Brien's there, Patrick knows the cause. He's able to say, it's this, and he's like, oh, you're right. Which, in some ways, reminds me of our son, because quite often he knows things, but I'm not sure whether it doesn't occur to him to communicate them or he can't communicate them. But it's like, that's what Patrick seemed like, that he knew what the problem was, but he didn't know how to communicate it, or it didn't occur to him, but he knew what the issue was. And you can see O'Brien going, oh. And again, I'm wondering whether it's because Patrick is so childlike that he automatically thinks that he must therefore be stupid. Because people do make that connection, don't they? They think that if somebody's childlike, they're silly, and that's not always the case. And then so it's the Damar announcement comes on, and they all they piece together Damar's history just from a very short piece of footage, but they do it collectively. So they say he's sad, no, he's ashamed, he's a man who doesn't sleep, he's the pretender, he killed someone close to him, and they say it was the king, no, it was the queen, no, it was the princess, and it's a collective thing, which I like.
And we get a bunch of pseudo Shakespeare quotes from Jack as well, which is nice. Uneasy as the head, all that stuff.
And so, someone's making him say he doesn't want to, which I like.
I like the way that the Dominion War is a sort of backbone to this. I mean, obviously, this is you could argue this is a one-off story about exploring a bit more of Bashir's genetically modified nature and some more people like him. But actually, it's set in the context of the Dominion War, so it doesn't feel as standalone as it might. Yeah,
and Bashir is so impressed that he's talking about it in Ops. And Damar, saying he wanted peace talks. They're going to be hosted on Deep Space Nine. And they don't say televised. That's what they meant. I can't remember. I think, did they say broadcast?
Yeah, they did. Sure. Basically, they're inferring that there is actually television in there.
Yeah.
Because they denied that in the Past and Next Generation. But how are people going to see this broadcast? I suppose they're just going to watch it on their pads, aren't they? But they are.
Yeah. Anyway, it's going to be broadcast. So they're all going to get to see it. And so then you have them looking at, obviously, bits of footage. And then Jack goes native language mode. And you hear Wayoon speak
in Vorta or Dominionese, I think.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know whether Vorta have their own language or
they say it's Dominionese.
Okay,
don't they? Yeah.
But he recognises the grammar and he says that's not a statement, that's a request. Meanwhile, Patrick is walking around them and looking at them and going, "That's what they want." It's like, how do you know? They keep avoiding looking at it. That's what they want. Why do they want it? And they're all having a discussion. It's not really clear. And Serena does something on the pad, and basically it turns out that what's there on the Cabral system is something that can be chemically altered to become Ketracel White. So Sisko's like, oh, that's brilliant, we nearly let them have it. And then Bashir's like, well, actually, you should let them have it, because we need to stall for time, because they've been doing these projections.
Yes, and this is very much we find. Remember did you ever read the Foundation books, Asimov?
Yeah, it's been a long while, but yes, I have.
Yeah, that whole thing about the psychohistory, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The fact that you can sort of you basically use this pseudoscience to predict the future. The downside with it is that they can't predict individuals. It's groups of people, and the further in the future you get, the more accurate it gets as well. And of course, the whole thing is unturned in this particular story by the fact that it's one individual that makes a difference. So it perfectly fits Asimov's model, basically. But hey, people have been ripping Asimov off for ages, so you can't complain at Trek for that.
No. Then they talk about bringing the Romulans into the alliance in a year, and so they actually need to do is stall for time, because then things will be weighted in their favour. Sisko agrees to take the analysis to Starfleet Command, so then they have a little party with champagne and party hats.
And we get a bit of Strauss's Blue Daniel Waltz, which immediately makes me think 2001. Yes. Expect to see shuttles starting to dock and stuff.
Yeah.
Originally, that scene the dance was going to be intricately shot with sort of the camera weaving in and around them, but they were foiled by the fact that Sid and Hilary Shepard both had 2 left feet. So.
But O'Brien comes in, says he's going to replace the power coupling that was playing up before, and he upsets Patrick. No. He says he doesn't like me, and he's like, no, I do like you. See, I'll put the hat on. They're like, no, he doesn't like you because he's jealous, because he wants his mate back. And yeah, and I love Bashir. He's so snarky. He's, oh, do I need to come and play with you? It's like the way we talk to our dog.
Yeah. It's a bit, yeah. He's kind of sweet, though.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that that's the only reason O'Brien doesn't like them. He's not actually necessarily prejudiced. It's just, I want to go drinking with my buddy and you'll keep me from him.
Yeah, and he's like, let's go to Quark's. And then when they're at Quark's, I love the snarky dialogue between them. He's and he's saying, of course it makes me feel superior. And
the common people. And he says it in a very Prince Charles way. He even does it visually. He's like, yeah, I know who you're taking the piss out of there.
Yeah.
And it also made me think,
I wanna live like common people. I wanna do whatever common people do. Wanna sleep with common people. I wanna sleep with common people like you. What else could I do? I said, I'll see what I can do.
So there's one tune to work on anyway.
Yep. Well, then after that, you come back and they've done, using this Asimov's model, they've done more long-term projection, and it's really, really bad. There's going to be 9 billion deaths, and the only way to avoid them is to surrender. So you've got Bashir going, we're doomed.
And you've got Sisko going, never surrender, basically turning it to Churchill at this point.
Actually, no, it reminded me of Galaxy Quest.
Yes, never give up, never surrender.
And then they're saying, yes, but after 5 generations of Dominion rule, there'll be an uprising. It's like, what? And Sisko's like, if we lose, we go down fighting. Now, Bashir accepts that he's lost the battle, that Sisko isn't going to support this plan to surrender, so Starfleet therefore will not agree with it, and that's it, he's lost. And he doesn't fight the decision, but he's really, really gloomy, and he goes into Quark's and makes everybody else really bloody gloomy, so Quark wants to get rid of him. He's like, the odds are always against us, and you never win, and he's winning, but he doesn't stop until he loses to prove a point, and yeah. But then, so when he goes back down, they say that, if that's not going to work, we're going to have to share the information with the Dominion. And when Bashir says no, Jack lamps him.
Yes. It's very well shot, that is.
And he goes down like, whoop. And they tie him up, and he comes to, and he says computer, but they've obviously disabled that. But Serena's there. And he manages to persuade Serena to untie him because he says, otherwise Jack's going to go to prison.
Yeah, originally she was going to speak in that scene. In fact, they filmed it.
Oh, right.
But it got edited out, which left the poor actor rather shocked upon watching it to discover that her one line had been cut.
Gosh.
It's like, I had one line, damn you.
Oh, no.
But there would be a sweetener to that, in as much as she got a more in-depth appearance a bit later on in the show as a result.
Which is the one I remembered. I didn't remember this one. Remember when you mentioned the genetically modified people? It's the one she comes back in that I remember more. Anyway, they're able, thanks to Serena, they're able to foil the plan, and Bashir meets them, heads them off at the pass. You've got Damar and Wayoon hiding in this cargo bay, and Damar's like, why am I doing this? I'm the head of Cardassia, and Wayoon's like, you serve at the Dominion's pleasure. And he's like, why are we doing this? And he's like,
I love the scenes between them.
And Wayoon's like, I'm having fun.
What an adventure.
Yes! And then Odo appears. And he says, we seem to have got lost. And Odo's like, yes, I know. I honour you with my presence. They're not coming. And Damar goes, who's not coming? He's like, I knew you were going to say that.
Well, he goes all dread, doesn't he?
I knew you'd say that.
He does.
There are times Odo comes across as being Judge Dredd. It's a bit scary, really, isn't it?
Yeah. But it does fit, being totalitarian.
Let's face it, Renee would have made a better Judge Dredd than Stallone did. But then
my
again,
arse would have made a better Dredd than Stallone.
Your arse with a helmet on. I am the Judge Trump.
No, that's even fucking scarier. You're back in the cargo bay, and Bashir is saying, "How can you be so sure that you're right? You didn't factor Serena in to your careful plan.
Again, one person can make a big
one
difference.
person changed the course of history, so maybe things won't turn out the way you thought." So then he's back at the Darbo table, and they're like, "Oh, you're going to be all gloomy again?" He's like, "No, I'm going to double down because sometimes you win," and he does. And then just as he's collecting his winnings, you have their shuttle's going to leave, and they won't leave without seeing him. So he goes to go and say goodbye to them, and one of the things Jack says is, if we come up with plans to beat the Dominion, will Starfleet listen? And Bashir says yes. And then they gather to beam up, except what's her face's name I've forgotten again, played by Hillary.
Lauren.
Lauren is lying on a chaise longue, which means that when they get beamed wherever there is, unless there is a chaise longue in exactly the right place, she's just going to flop on the floor, isn't she?
Yeah, or at best she's going to rematerialise lying down on the floor, which is going to look bloody odd. But there you go. It was a conscious decision on their part that she was always going to be lying down, except for the scene when they're dancing, because supposedly that makes her look more seductive or something. I don't know. Doesn't make any chuff sense to me, but there we are.
No. In some ways, I like the fact that they're portraying the idea that there can be people who are really gifted at certain things but who struggle in other areas.
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't get that aired in anything very much.
Nope.
But they do not address the way that they are being treated.
Yeah. I mean, they set it up that they're being treated really badly, and which is fine as long as they comment on it. Which they don't.
No.
So it comes across as, I don't know, as an afterthought or something. I don't know, it just is.
It doesn't feel right.
No.
So in some ways it's a step forward in that you're at least getting them portrayed.
Mm-hmm.
But...
And they're some of the most interesting Federation civilians we've met to date, just because of their situation. And, this generally perfect society is shown to have a slightly darker side to it, so there are parents out there who are willing to break the law and modify their children in order to give them an extra edge. It's an interesting concept. It's just I'm not too sure they're quite exploring it as well as they could at this point, but there we are. And
I think as well that you kind of expect better from Trek. And although this isn't as bad as that next gen one that's supposed to be exploring homosexuality but isn't, and doesn't explore gender either, and is all a bit rubbish.
Yes.
It's not as bad as that.
No, but then again, very, very little is. That was just terrible.
But in the same way as that failed...
I think this is a C- could do better in some ways.
Yeah, it's not a complete failure, but it doesn't work as well as it really should. You think of I don't know what it's called, you might, but there's an episode of Next Gen where it might be the Masterpiece Society, where everybody's supposedly all lovely and perfect, and there's Geordie with his visor.
Oh yes, that's Masterpiece Society, when it
That's
gets pointed out that he wouldn't exist in
and that does it right.
Yeah.
Not least because Geordie himself is given a voice and is able to articulate his own position.
Mm-hmm.
So this era sort of Trek can get it right.
And I mean, the message here seems to be they're okay because they're useful. Which is awful, actually, when you think about it.
One of the reasons why, once I started paying attention, when our son started watching it avidly, to Thomas the Tank Engine, it freaked the shit out of me. You're a very useful engine.
So regardless of ability, that's just all about, conforming and being. But anyway.
But it was just like, whoa, people are more always than their economic contribution.
And these guys are shut back up in their institution because whilst they were briefly
Henry behind the wall, isn't it?
Whilst they were briefly useful, actually it transpired that they were also dangerous as far as society's concerned. So lock them back up again. It's like, okay. So yes, unfortunately, it's an interesting story and it has some nice character moments, but the sort of thinking behind it isn't properly there. Yes. Shall we find out what other people think?
Yes.
Zamark. Statistical Probabilities, or Damn You, Asimov! I'm not going to talk about the hateful trope of how being smart makes you mad, or one of the crazy people. I hate that, and the fuck-ton of trite anti-intellectualism. It's not about them being smart, it's about them being different, isn't it, is the problem. But anyway, we're moving on and ignoring the fact that the locking up guys who basically Asperger's is fucked up.
Yeah, which we've said.
Yes, quite.
Yes.
No, moving on. Firstly, Lauren, played by Hilary Shepherd, is, I am told from guys who have worked with her at cons, the single nicest person they have worked with from Trek. Also, look up her Power Rangers costume and ask, which one is the kids show again? Yes, I did, and oh boy. Now, there are in real life events called Black Swan events you just can't predict. We see this with Serena letting the Doc know Jack's plan. Also, they are in a setting with Q and wormhole aliens screwing with things every few months. It's a little nonsensical for anyone to take the analysis seriously in a world in which, just 3 episodes previously, the gods erased an entire enemy fleet.
Yeah.
Yes, good job factoring the profits into your mathematical formulas. Logic dictates delaying any surrender until the last possible moment to maximise the opportunity for the gods to step in again and tip the scales. However, in the real world, we have stochastic analysis, a new branch of mathematics, that looks at understanding and modelling systems like future events. This must be done with very large groups for it to come close to working, very large groups like the Federation. Yes, I was vaguely aware of this.
Okay.
They do it like for traffic monitoring, for instance.
Oh, right. Is that all the predictive traffic lights, which doesn't make any difference whether or not you press the button, it does it anyway?
No, more in terms of controlling large amounts of traffic on motorways and stuff like that.
Oh, where they tell you to slow down for no reason.
For no obvious reason, but actually there is a reason in the mathematical formula, but as a driver you're like, why?
Yeah.
Well, anyway. In fiction, this never goes well, except in the original Foundation trilogy, where the plan is to use that predictive ability to steer a course through history. Heck, look at Fallout 4. As soon as the player shows up and does anything, Pam's mathematical models have to be redone as the player keeps doing things she does not expect. Sorry, reference shooting way overhead there, but never mind. It's not like we haven't done that to other people with our randomness. Will this go well in real life with real statistical probabilities? Only time and numbers will tell. Also, I found it odd Worf was the one to mention how genetic engineering made things unfair for other humans. Things are already unfair. There are races that are smarter than humans, stronger than humans, with more abilities than humans, and in a few cases, all of the above. Bloody space elves. I mean Vulcans. With all this, I still like this episode, even with the downright offensive portrayals of analogues of mental illness. Here we are. Oh, that's interesting. Like us, he enjoyed it despite its clear flaws. Yes.
In terms of the stronger than, better than humans and not being fair thing, I think people in our Trek would view it differently were it not for Khan. If there had been some kind of coexistence, it might have been different, but there wasn't. And we've heard from Doreen, who writes, Statistical Probabilities was relatively okay until the geniuses got caught up with surrendering. But perhaps the writers were trying to make a point about human-generated intelligence as opposed to inborn, naturally acquired smarts. So sort of street smarts versus book learning kind of intelligence thing.
I don't know, I didn't really pick that up, I must admit.
Don't think so, no.
But who knows, you could be right.
Could be.
Thank you, Doreen.
Thank you.
We've heard from Purry.
Hi guys, Purry here to talk about statistical probabilities. Not literally, again, sitting here talking about statistical probabilities. Instead, the Deep Space Nine episode. So, first I'm going to kind of talk about what annoyed me about this episode. Because overall, I found it okay. The first is my real gripe about mental health care within the Federation. So, we have a bunch of people now, they've been genetically engineered illegally, and by a less competent genetic resequencing bloke than Bashir. And as a result, it has created some secondary conditions, such as one of them's a mute, one of them's pretty much a child, one of them's paranoid and has bouts of violence, and one of them has terrible taste in kind of slinky one-piece outfits. So together they are, but the thing is, so you've got some people, they're non-neurotypical, but instead the Federation bungs them in an institute. And there is indeed this thing of, particularly where the parents' choice has been, it was quite well done actually in that dinner conversation, that the Federation does just kind of isolate people who are genetically engineered, and really you are beginning to get into this discrimination territory, which is quite well handled. But I still get annoyed about the Federation and the fact that, you're a bit weird, get into a dull institute. When clearly there were intelligent people who need stimulus. So the episode itself, like I say, it's maybe, it was a bit slow at times, but overall, I mean, I think some of the ticks got to me a bit. I think the problem is when they do this sort of thing, quite often people are resolved into a number of ticks rather than a sort of fully blown personality, which is a little annoying. But there were some really nice touches. I liked the idea that they were able to sort of work out the story of Damar the minute he appeared on the screen. That was quite well done, and indeed their idea that sort of working out what they wanted from the negotiations was good as well. Whereas when they then work out that the Federation can't win, Bashir sort of actually Alexander Siddig did a really good job, where Bashir really does give you the impression of someone who's almost lost hope, particularly when they won't surrender. Obviously Cisco finds the whole idea abhorrent and no one's really up for it, but they're looking at it in the, well, if we surrender we will save billions of lives who will be lost when we lose, and I think that was actually quite well presented and quite well done when Bashir's kind of losing it in quarks, but by the same token when they decide to go and have their own negotiation and perhaps hand in a surrender, but they are still being used as a think tank, which I quite like. At the end of it says that yes, they're going back to this institute, but they have purpose and Starfleet will keep using them for this even if they don't always follow their advice, which had a sort of a note of hope to it. And indeed, I'm sure it's not too spoilery to say we do actually see them at least for one more episode. So overall, it's not brilliant, but at least we've got an awareness of the Dominion War again and some progress on that front, which is nice. But I don't know, maybe I almost feel like this should have had a subplot somewhere, which we didn't, and that would have been really welcome. So yeah, it was okay. It didn't annoy me. But coming up next is a Ferengi episode, which annoys quite a few people. So until then, bye for now.
Well, in effect, they did have a subplot because it was the peace negotiations with Damar really was the subplot, but obviously it tied nicely into the A plot, so it kind of overlapped significantly, didn't it? So. I know what you mean about the ticks. Yeah. It ends up with a very two-dimensional portrayal of somebody. It's like, oh, that's the one who's childlike, or that's the one who's all sexy pants. And it's like, even with people who are neurotypical, there's more to them than just their
tropes.
Yeah. So, I quite agree with that. That's probably the most... That and the way they're treated are the two big disappointing things about the story.
One thing that's just occurred to me where they're advocating surrender and everything, and you've got Cisco going on about we're going to go down fighting, and really it's about freedom. Do you think that because they've never had freedom and never known it?
Interestingly, it's not such a high quality for them.
Yeah,
I'm not sure. I think they're just purely looking at the numbers. So it's not that. I don't think that's entering into their equation literally, because they're just looking at the numbers. And you look at the numbers on paper, and clearly, it makes sense for them to give in. But then that makes no sense once you put the human equation in there. So
I just wondered whether coming from different. In other words,
I understand what you mean. I don't think that they were really, because I think they were just looking at numbers.
Okay. But yes, I agree. Sid does a very good portrayal of
he's good in this.
Despair.
Yeah, and also of sympathy, and the way it's making him look at himself. I mean, that aspect of the story is very good. Yeah. The way it makes the character, the Doctor, look at himself and the way he's been treated, and that's a good element to it. And also that awkward dinner scene is probably the best scene of the whole thing in some ways, because it exposes the other characters for the way that they're not considering the needs of these people, except for the fact that somebody should damn well have said, why are they in the cargo bay anyway?
Yes. What did Drew and Tracy make of this one?
So we've just watched Statistical Probabilities.
That would do.
This is my fucking kryptonite, I'm telling you. I just cannot say this word.
Yes, we watched that episode.
Yes, we just watched this one. Yes, what did you think of that then?
I really enjoyed it. I've got a feeling now, I don't know if it'll be a popular episode, but I liked it.
You said you'd seen this before. You remembered watching it at Pages,
I can remember
seeing
it at Pages, yeah, definitely.
You said,
I've seen these characters before.
You said, we watched it. I was like, yeah, whatever.
I don't know whether they're going to be in the future. I've got a feeling they might be, but I know the characters and I remember this episode.
Okay. It was very 12 Monkeys for me.
Yes, I know.
And that character was... I don't know if this predates 12 Monkeys or...
Not too sure.
I don't know the timeline.
Jack.
Yeah, but Jack was very much like Brad Pitt for me.
Super over the top. Yes, I know. If there's one criticism, and I'm going to get it away, it's the amazing savant kind of cliche this is. You know, like someone who's kind of got these kind of autistic problems, but they're super genius. It's a bit of a cliche in films, thanks to Rain Man. But, you know, I'm looking over that. I'm just saying, it's sci-fi bollocks going on, and that they are really clever kind of people who have obviously got problems.
So going back to the beginning,
yep.
Dr. Lowe, I think, is a great name for a doctor.
Yeah, Dr. Lowe.
Hi, how are you feeling today? I'm low. You know, especially for a psychologist, I thought that was quite funny.
Definitely.
So the crew,
yep,
are having their a dinner, right? Bashir leaves the facility, let's call it the facility if you like, with Jack and all that lot, because he's going to have dinner with friends, right? Yep. So he's having dinner with the crew, and they're all off duty because they're drinking, but yet they're all in their uniform. Why do they never get into their comfies?
They sleep in their uniform, they have a shower in their uniform, they eat the dinner in their uniform.
24/7 they're in their uniform. I don't get it. So one person, i.e. the girl in the facility, I can't remember her name now.
The quiet one.
Yeah. Can't think of her name. I want to say Rosie, but it's not Rosie.
Serena.
Could be, yeah. So if they're brave enough, despite the fact that they haven't got a voice, they can change the course of history if they're brave enough.
What do you mean? I don't quite
Because she went against them, didn't she?
Oh, I see, yeah, because she liked Jack and he was saying
and she doesn't have a voice, but she kind of went against Jack to kind of almost save...
Turn
the Federation.
The tide.
Yeah, exactly. So it means that, despite whether you've got a voice or not, if you're brave enough, you can change the course of history and kind of...
Yep, definitely. I think that was the point,
which was quite profound, actually.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this. I mean, I think it's like super analysis of mathematics and that, which I'm always going to like.
Fuck, you've got to bring maths into this one.
Easy. One thing I'd say, one criticism, you must know about chaos theory, and I guess that's what happens at the end, tiniest fluctuations of stuff that you don't know can turn complete calculations into something else. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was excellent.
Didn't see much of the DS crew in this one. Ben was quite hard.
I was a Bashir.
We're going to fight, and I don't really give a shit.
That was good,
saying. Yeah, because he's like, we have to fight, and it doesn't matter.
And Miles as well.
Miles was really funny, but again, Wei Young in this. I was okay, not enjoying you until Odo appeared, and I thought he was just going to get on his knees and start bowing. Odo.
No, we were surprised. Damar has been promoted, hasn't he?
Yeah, no, not having that.
When you think, like, when he first in it, he was just
Dick.
like. He was on the bird of prey, wasn't he? He was just like the helm officer or something. And now look at him.
Now he's taken over from Golden Cat because we left in the last episode. Golden Cat like talking to himself in a corner.
Yes, yeah. No, he's doing good though, Damar, isn't he? He's rising up.
Yeah, but he's a fucking arsehole.
Yes, we know that. Public Enemy #1.
Kill that one. Anyway, this was good. It was different.
Very enjoyable stuff.
Different, yeah. I
don't know if everyone's going to like it, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll enjoy seeing more of the people.
I've got a
Jack
feeling
and all that.
they might come back, but I don't know.
The woman, I can't remember, red woman, can't think what her name is now. She was a bit Poison Ivy.
Lauren, I think.
Yeah, could be. She was a bit Poison Ivy, and she needs to get her hands off Bashir.
Yep.
That's all I'm saying.
Okay, well, let's leave it there.
Let's leave it there, yeah.
Okay.
Right. Take it easy. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Ooh, a bit of jealousy there.
Oh, yeah.
Rents off my mane. Yeah, this was 2 years after 12 Monkeys, so Brad Pitt may have been an inspiration for Jack.
Could have been. And what? I don't know why they're never in their comfies. I mean, presumably, when they're in that room, the idea that all the senior staff have the same time off. It's the same as when they go in the Defiant, who the fuck is in ops?
Yes,
so you kind of think, maybe some of them could be on call, and the ones that are on call shouldn't be drinking, and therefore also if they're on call they'd be in their uniforms.
Maybe.
So it might explain some of them, but not pissing all of them.
I know, it's always the way, isn't it? Yeah. And Damar, so much more to come for Damar.
He's a fucking arsehole. Yeah, he is though. And just the way he is with Kira, even though they only have that brief scene, he's still really nasty to her, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
But also as well, one thing occurred to me, I spotted it in the next episode as well, it isn't just that everybody seems to be like in uniform all the time. Nobody has any fucking pockets. It's wrong.
So, the God of Llamas, who's a poorly God of Llamas at the moment, poor chap.
Oh.
So, get well soon, sir.
Yeah, get well soon.
Llama God's Log, Scott Date, Object, Un, Vacancy Tree. This week, Star Trek does the Big Bang Theory, years before the Big Bang Theory was cool. Which is actually still a large number of years, because the Big Bang Theory will never be cool. Yeah, I'm not sure whether I should be insulted by this episode or not. I mean, yes, this episode features some genetically modified people, and they are clearly the effect of genetic modification is something that we don't, in our current society, really have much of an idea how that would look, especially if some of the modifications went wrong. Although, essentially, what we've got here is a whole room full of autistic people. But not just that, we've got a room full of badly thought-out stereotypes. We've got the overeager man-child, we've got the cry-teary fat man-child, we've got the quiet girl, and the sultry girl, and I can kind of see what they're going for this episode, but to me, this just seems like it's insulting to neurodiverse people, really. This isn't at all subtle or clever. And yeah, I think I generally found this episode to be quite uncomfortable as a consequence of that. But to look at some of the other aspects of the episode, in terms of the episode itself not handling neurodiverse people quite that well, we've also got Starfleet being quite ruthless and vicious with them. What we have here is a group of people who actually need help, and they're being forced against their will to assist Starfleet with operations. I mean, I know this is a time of war, but I didn't think that Starfleet was the kind of organisation that did conscriptions, and that's essentially what we've got going on here. These people have been press-ganged into helping out with war effort, so yeah, that also leaves me very uncomfortable. On the plus side, at least the programme hasn't forgotten that the Dominion is still a thing and still something that needs to be dealt with, but this just raises the uncomfortable factor of the episode quite massively. There are a couple of plus points though, I guess. The usual stereotype in this sort of science fiction story is that the hyper-involved, super-intelligent humans are the ones that become cold and unfeeling, too logical and analytic, and who have no emotion or anything. Is it in the Time Machine that trope first originated? I'm not entirely sure, I don't think I've ever read it. But that sort of idea does persist. So it's quite interesting here in that this group of stereotypes is actually acting out of compassion for people. They actually want to save people. They're not being logical about odds for winning a war. They're actually worrying about people and casualties. So I guess that's something that I do like seeing here, is that, the idea that superintelligence doesn't lead to cold analyticalness. We're actually caring about people. So I guess that's a plus side to consider. And what's also nice to see in this episode is the way that O'Brien and Bashir relate to each other. They are still very good friends. Nothing much has really changed between them after the revelation that Bashir is an enhanced human. fine. I mean, yeah, there's the part where Bashir becomes a bit of a dick, really, but, it's at the end of the day, O'Brien knows where he's coming from, they make up, and it's all fine. So it's nice to see that sort of functional relationship going on there between two people. Although, that said, Bashir is still someone who passes as a normal person, which, again, is a slightly insulting idea. That's the only reason that they're able to get on. So, yeah, a generally uncomfortable episode this, and a bit of a misstep. But at least it does include the line, we've been too complacent about the Dominion. I mean, obviously, I guess they've been listening to our feedback through time machines or something. And if there's one question that the episode does leave us with, is that when the stereotypes were being offered Deep Space Nine, did sultry woman stereotype, did she just end up lying sultrily on the floor of a sultry transporter room or something? Yeah, I don't know. I think it's best if we, kind of forget this episode and move on to the next episode, which will hopefully be a little bit less problematic. Let's see.
Yes, he saw the problem with that transporter scene as well.
Yeah, and you're right, it's, for all the problems with the portrayals, it is nice to see a group of super intelligent people who are genuinely worrying about casualties, as opposed to being really cold and not caring about people. Their motivation is good. They have compassion, which is good to see. And I like the idea that, this thing about not getting too complacent about the Dominion is them listening to us. Don't think that's real, though.
Cool, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We'll move on to our next episode, which is something of a contrast, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, just a bit.
With the magnificent Ferengi.
The Federation's most feared enemy.
And we'll all die!
Unleashes an act of unprovoked hostility.
Our mother's been taken prisoner by the Dominion.
They're cold-blooded.
Killer.
Ruthless.
They're here to kill us all.
Invincible.
We're finished!
Starfleet is pulling out the big guns.
Don't move!
Is the Dominion ready for Quark?
I surrender!
On the next Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
You get the impression that Trailer Guy's taking the piss there a bit.
Yeah.
But hey, it's of a theme. It has to be said with the episode. So Quark has 3 cases of syrup as squill brought into the bar. This is something that's taken from a W.C. Fields film, apparently.
Okay.
It's a gift from 1934. He reveals how he's seen through the Planet of Squills' plan to push their prices up and gets the product in return for not revealing the deception. Except he's just revealed the deception to an entire bar full of people. Whoops, but never mind. But it's interesting that the Bajorans clap him, and not all of them, but some of them are clapping him in the proper way.
Yeah.
So that was nice. He's about to start another epic tale of his economic legerdemain when Dax, Bashir and O'Brien walk in, having been on a hush-hush mission, and are now able to wow people with their exploits, taking the wind out of Quark's sails. And then the Nagus calls. Not that we see him.
No.
That's because Wallace Shawn wasn't available for this episode. There's a great moment when Quark finds Rom.
Oh, there you are. I've been looking all over the station for you.
Well, you found me. Now you go hide and I'll search for you.
I love that. Yeah. Apparently the Dominion have taken their Moogie prisoner, and the Nagus has charged Quark with the rescue mission. She was on her way to get her ears raised on Vulcan.
I like that as an idea that, yeah.
It figures the Vulcans would be experts in that, isn't it?
Yeah.
And yes, it was originally going to be Zek being kidnapped, which would obviously be slightly major stakes for the whole of Ferengi, but again, Wallace Shawn wasn't available. Maybe he was doing voiceovers for Toy Story at that moment, I don't know.
Could be, but you've got to remember that in the most recent episode, Moogie is the brains behind the Empire.
Yes, but that's a secret.
Yes.
So, if it had been the Nagus, that would have inspired the other Ferengi that he has to encourage to take part in the mission. But anyway, Rom is not keen on helping, but there is a reward on offer. Quark reveals the fact that the Nagus and Moogie are an item, and I hadn't realised that Rom didn't know
I
up to this point.
hadn't realised either.
I didn't clock that one. Crawling through the access ducts, they take a wrong turn and end up in Sisko's office.
I like that.
It's a wonderful moment. Can I help you, gentlemen? Rom suggests they hire some tough mercenaries, some Nausicaans and the like, but Quark is determined they should do this with just Ferengi. Yes, the pride of his species is at stake. So they call upon Nog, promising to make him Strategic Operations Officer, i.e. their Worf, which perks his interest. It's funny the way Nog's going, isn't it?
Yeah.
Then they call upon Lek, who's a Ferengi eliminator. I am the eliminator. Who doesn't care about Latinum, but is intrigued by the challenge of fighting the Jem'Hadar. This is Hamilton Camp. What a name.
I want a big part in your life. The walk on will be fine. I just want a big part in your life.
who appeared in Ferengi Love Songs in the exchange, but his character wasn't named, but he was wearing the same costume, so you can probably assume this is the same guy. He was also in Voyager Season 5 as a Malon. Those dudes that dealt in Dangerous Waste. They were vaguely interesting, but of course just got left behind.
No.
Yeah, they were kind of intergalactic dustmen, but very bad.
Okay, so he was an intergalactic...
Yeah, he was one of those. You're worse as Tracy tonight, guy.
Yeah.
Put your teeth in. He's done a lot of computer game voices, including Baldur's Gate, which we played a bit of back in the day, didn't we? Played H.G. Wells in Lewis and Clark, and did a lot of cartoon voices as well. In fact, he had a career in television dating back to the 1950s, and died in 2005 at the age of 70. Next on the recruiting list is Cousin Gaylor. This is Josh Pace. I think we've mentioned him before, because of course he was in Business as Usual. And he was the voice of Raphael in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the original film.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yes. He obviously survived the shootout in Business as Usual, but has been picked up by the Federation for vagrancy. But his fine is paid by Quark, and he's recruited with the promise of more latinum.
Hang on. How can the Federation, who don't work on the basis of money...
have fines paid? Don't.
Have fines.
Yeah, I know.
And also,
it's
if you don't have
how was
to have...
Bashir gambling in the last episode of BBB?
But also, it's like, so how can you have fines? And then also, if you don't have currency-based economics, then presumably you have some kind of universal basic standard of living. Ergo, how is he a vagrant? And or how is vagrancy a crime?
Very good point. Yes. Other than that, it's quite a nice sequence with Quark and Rom adding up their team as they go. Nog tries to drill them, but they're unwilling to call him Sir. And then ex-liquidator Brunt arrives to offer his services, and indeed his ship, most importantly, in order to get his old job back. Curry favour with the Curry favour with the Nagus, yes. And time for me to put my teeth in.
Yeah.
This is the Put Your Teeth In podcast. Combs, yes. Combs. Let's call the whole thing off. Combs plays him as a complete coward throughout, which is amusing. Now we are 6, Rom says.
Winnie the Pooh.
Yes.
Winnie the...
Apparently. I'd completely forgotten that was a Winnie the Pooh thing. We get a fantastic training programme in the holosuite, but of course it's in the cave set.
Oh, I know, I wrote the cave set.
I feel it deserves mentioning in the credits now, as it's practically a returning actor. I mean, it appeared in more episodes than some of the other Ferengi have, let's face it.
Well, it's like you could do Who Are You for the cave set.
Yeah, I know, yeah. Pretty much every week. Get a bit repetitive, wouldn't it? There's a fantastic sequence where Quark is shot in the leg. Rom runs into a rock. Brunt surrenders and then is shot. And Lek shoots Moogie. Quark despairs and Rom realises they're not going about this the Ferengi way. It's the Ferengi way. So a prisoner exchange is organised, thanks to Kira stepping in to support Quark. Payback for her rescue and sacrifice of angels. Nice bit of continuity. The team are crammed into Brunt's Ferengi shuttle on their way to Empok Nor, which is a cheap option, but better than the cave set at least.
Yeah.
The prisoner in question turns out to be the Vorta Kievan.
The horrible one.
Captured in Rocks and Shoals, and it's another great performance from Christopher Shear. He's just so fed up with everything, isn't he? Bless him. Rom does amusing introductions to the Vorta's complete disinterest.
No.
And they all turn to stare ahead in horror when Kievan tells them they're doomed. The fact they're synchronised apparently was a happy accident. They make base camp in the infirmary on Empok Nor, and Kievan reveals he was supposed to commit suicide when he was captured. So he's got nothing to look forward to when the Dominion arrive to pick him up. Nog takes natural command to his father's pride and Quark's disgust. They've ruined him. They are woken up to the shrieks of Gaylor. I'd remembered a lot more shrieking in this. This is the only bit, thankfully. Who's fallen asleep guarding Kievan, letting the Vorta escape. And there's a very amusing chase scene. There's a lot of running around and bumping into each other, tripping over barrels. And yeah. Thankfully, they deactivated the ship's engine so he couldn't escape. And then the Dominion arrive in force, commanded by Iggy Pop. Oh, yeah. He was cast as Yelgren because Bear is a big Iggy fan and had been trying to get him on the show for ages. He was available for this story due to a stage injury. He broke his collarbone.
Ooh.
Hence he holds himself very stiffly in this. He barely moves at all, actually, but it kind of fits the Vorta.
He does, yeah.
Quark strikes a hard bargain to try and ensure the Ferengi get out with their skins intact, so that's quite nice.
Yeah.
Rom then lets slip that their reward is 50, not 20 bars of latinum, as they told everybody else, leading to Gala firing at Quark and hitting Keevan.
I know.
I hate Ferengi is his last words. As he collapses on his face. But hey, he deserved it. There's an improbable moment where Nog accidentally gets the dead Vorta moving, and even more improbably, they get him walking like a zombie. Like a dead man walking, you might say.
Like I'm dancing on angels, and I'm gone through the crack in the past, like a dead man walking, like a dead man walking.
Tune! That's two to choose from, I think. Moogie discusses Hippocat root futures with Yelgren. That's another reference to It's a Gift, apparently. Then the exchange happens with Zombie Keevan walking to a bulkhead. And
I love that.
Stuck doing it for eternity, apparently, because they just leave him there. No respect for the dead. Impressively, Lek knifes a Jemadar. Well, I say impressively, it's not very impressive for the Jemadar, is it? One knife to the chest and they're dead. They were built up as these all-powerful... This is your problem. You've got a crack commando squad of Ferengi. Yeah, right. Versus... Alright, it's only 2 Jemadar at this point, but even so, they shouldn't be prawned so easily, should they?
No, but then he had said, do the Jemadar have a weak point too?
Yes, if there'd been some line about, there's a poison or something you can infect them with, possibly. But then that, of course, would have made them less threatening for future. I mean, as it is, they're less threatening for future, aren't they? I mean, Rom and Brunt shoot the other. That's not so bad. If you're caught in crossfire with 2 phaser rifles, that's not bad. But, yeah, dagger to the chest, really? That's going to finish a Jemadar off in one fell swoop? Maybe it was some sort of lucky shot and took out his spleen, and that's vital for a Jemadar. No, it's not very likely, is it, really? Death by spleen.
No.
Perhaps that's where they keep their genitals.
But if they...
Except they're cloned. Yeah, that doesn't work either. Yeah, I'm trying my best to sort this out, but really, they're not helping me,
Is that where a Jemadar heart is?
Well, if so, it's a bit of a... You'd imagine they'd have more than one. You'd be... they're supposed to be tough and genetically modified for fighting. One bloody dagger to the chest shouldn't finish him off.
What he should have done is done a dagger to the white tube, shouldn't he?
Yeah, that would have been... Well, that wouldn't have killed him again. That just made him mad. Oh, I don't know. The bottom line is that either they've got this incredible weakness, in which case they're not really scary Jemadar anymore, or he was just so incredibly lucky, but again, they're still not scary Jemadar anymore. Aboo! But it's the only way they're going to get out of this situation, so they're caught by plot. They take Yelgren prisoner to give him to the Federation as well, in return for giving them Keevan. But anyway, ultimately, I was sort of bracing myself for an episode I wasn't going to enjoy, and it's dumb. Oh boy, is it dumb. But it's fun. It's dumb fun. And not as shrieky as I remembered, most importantly, because I thought it was a lot more shrieky than this. But no, it's alright. It's silly, very silly, but fun silly.
It's fun silly. A couple of things was, number one, how does Nog get clearance to go?
Yeah, you thought he'd have to ask permission at the very least for a holiday or something. And he's in uniform throughout, which doesn't reflect well on the Federation, does it?
No. So, but then, as we previously established, that's all they have. Once they're in uniform, they have no other clothes. Apart from Dax, who has purple dresses.
Yes, for parties.
Yes. And then you have this line from Moogie where she says, "My lobes haven't looked this firm in over a century."
Yeah.
So how old bloody are Ferengi?
Well, everybody's generally living longer, aren't they, at this point? So
but if she's Quark's mum, Quark doesn't seem that old.
Maybe he isn't, but
so, and she's over a century. Do you see what I mean? It's like
that's not a problem. This is the future. I'm not worried about it. More to the point, what's that all about? Lobes being, I mean, if it was a human, they'd have a boob job,
presumably.
Yeah. You know what? I don't want to think about that too much.
She had some kind of clit tuck.
Oh, they've got clits in their ears. No.
Clitoris.
Ferengi sex must look so strange in the ear. Well, there's no reason
coming in your ears.
Coming in your ears. Oh my gosh, I nearly dropped my beer there. I mean, there's no reason why every species would keep their vagina in the same place, after all, to misquote Star Trek 6.
Yes.
So maybe that's where the Ferengi vagina is. Holy cow. This has gone to, well, not a dark place, but a very, very strange place. A damn moist place. Slightly fishy. No!
Well, maybe the wax is a natural lubricant.
It's the Hupyrian beetle snuff that's doing it. Or something. I don't know. Oh dear. Oh dear. I'm very sorry, dear listener. We really have reached the gutter. I mean, admittedly, normally we do that a bit earlier, but there we are. Perhaps we need our feedback as to try and drag us out of the gutter and think good thoughts or something.
Yeah, I don't know. We've heard from the Mark, who writes, The Magnificent Ferengi or A Weekend at Quark's. Quark, we'll just use Ferengi, Rom, but then we'll all die. And he says, silly, slight, not plausible, but so much fun.
Yeah.
As you may recall, I'm not a lover of most Ferengi episodes, but this works for me a lot. The plot is scarcely believable. It involves the kidnapping of Moogie at the hands of the Dominion, and an all-Ferengi task force to get the job done. It's take off the Magnificent Seven, like the finger counting of the members run by Rum, Quark and Nog. The jokes in Magnificent worked for every reason that jokes in most Ferengi episodes don't. The cliché of the greedy, scheming Ferengi has been worn incredibly tired over the years, and for once we have a departure from the Ferengi prophet ideology in favour of a more action-oriented plot. Sure, the lust for latinum still plays a part in the story, but this time it feels incidental, true to character motivation rather than the driving concern of lackluster comedy.
I like the fact that they all have different motivation. These are all different. Not all Ferengi are the same.
Yes, which is good.
I mean, all right, yes, greed is a general character trait, but not true. I mean, Lek is just a psychopath, basically, and he wants the challenge of taking on the Jem'Hadar, so that's quite cool. So yeah, I like the fact they're all different, at least.
In small doses, Ferengi greed and scheming makes sense and works. These guys are, after all, Ferengi. There's another agenda working here, the sense that, yes, even Ferengi strive to be something more than they are. They want to be heroes. Quarkner has a taste for it. And get a ton of old faces back and a fun new one. Lek, the knife-wielding assassin with unique priorities. It's the go-for-broke banter and slapstick that's put to the test in Magnificent Ferengi. The plot takes the Ferengi to Empok Nor, where they negotiate with a Vorta official, and it's Iggy Pop.
And why not?
Yeah, he's a man with lots of Jem'Hadar at his disposal, not a lot of patience, but I love the dryness of his Vorta, and a nice counterpoint to the enthusiastic Ferengi. At this point, the plot goes full Weekend at Bernie's, on a move that borders on gallows humour, but is uproariously funny. Nog rigging Keevan's corpse to create the illusion that Keevan is alive just long enough. And seeing the dead Keevan standing like a statue with eyes wide open and head lodged at an unnatural angle was still a hilarious sight.
Dorian, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Dorian has this to say. I enjoyed The Magnificent Ferengi, possibly because I needed a good laugh after the serious issues explored in the last one. And after being left dazed and confused after the latest Discovery episode. Oh, tell us about it. Ooh, where are they going next with that? Anyway, we'll find that out next week. Thank you.
Thank you. What did the Llama God think? Did you like this one?
Llama God's Log, supplemental. Now we face the darkest of times, the gravest of threats. The one we love the most has been taken from us. Will we be able to save? Fan favourite, Moogie? Actually, to be fair, obviously this is going to be a Ferengi episode, and generally I've enjoyed the Ferengi episodes, so I had high hopes for this. And as soon as it became clear that Moogie had been taken prisoner, I was pretty much in for this. Maybe this is because I'm suffering from the flu at the moment, maybe it's because I just felt so uncomfortable by the last episode. So yeah, no, I was definitely in for this one from the start, and showing my hand far too soon, it didn't disappoint. If memory serves, and it doesn't right now, the previous Ferengi-centric episode was a bit of a disappointment. This one is great. This one was a lot of fun on a whole number of aspects. I think my favourite part of the episode so far was Rom thinking that Quark was playing hide and seek with him in the station's access tunnels. That was just, that made me crack up, and that was great. And yeah, so obviously this is just a riff on them, I guess, the Magnificent Seven, other sort of team-up films and stories, but yeah, no, it was great. And there's a couple of really nice things in this episode. The first one is we see that not all Ferengi are the same. I mean, okay, so the Ferengi who isn't interested in Latinum turns out to be a psychopath. But, at least that's introducing some variation into Ferengi society. I mean, we've already had Rom, who isn't quite like a normal Ferengi, and Nog, who's obviously joined Starfleet. So yeah, it's nice to see that it's not just restricted to our weekly point of view characters, but also the rest of Ferengi society. They're not just all after Latinum. I mean, mostly, but yeah, no, it was kind of nice to see. But it's also nice to see the ongoing thread of Quark and his pride in the Ferengi people and wanting to prove themselves and prove that they're good and equal. And it was really lovely that they do, by the end of the episode, prove that the Ferengi are actually competent and able to, achieve goals they set out to do. Not in the same way that Klingons would or Starfleet would, but they use their own skills and their own people and base have value. And I really loved seeing that. It was great. It was also nice in a way to see the return of cousin Gayla and also daughter Justin Timberlake, who does indeed get his comeuppance in this episode, and the fact that it happens in such a offhand way is actually just so fitting for the arsehole that he is. I'm really glad that happened. And I wasn't at all bothered that they reused the Not Deep Space Nine, honestly, set that we've had a few episodes back. It's a great looking set when they change it to be the spooky version of the station, and clearly it was to save money, but I like the way they did this. And obviously I'm interested to see what you do for the Things in the Bit part, or whatever it is, because Iggy Pop, that's a very odd casting choice, but he works very well. He's got a lust for the link or something, I don't know. Again, I'm not hot on the song briefing right now, which is probably better. But no, Walter E. Pop works really well in this episode, and he's got just the right amount of weariness to make the character work, and so yeah, I did love his performance. And so yeah, it isn't the perfectly clean in-out operation. The training exercise is hilarious, but Quark's negotiation with the water is genius, and the whole Weekend at Quark's thing where they have to reanimate the dead water, that's great. I guess the only question I have is that, when they leave the station, he's still walking to the wall. Are we going to go back to that station at any point in the future and find his desiccated corpse still knocking about the bulkheads? Because, that would be creepy. Again, kind of fitting. He's an arsehole. I'd like to see it. I think that says something about me. But yeah, no, I love this episode. It was a great, fun episode. And the Ferengi come out on top by being properly Ferengi. So I really liked seeing that. So this was good, this was fun, and yeah, definitely cleansed the palate after the previous episode. As ever, I'll be looking forward to finding out what everyone else thought of this episode. So until next time, glory to you and your cast.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And do get well soon.
Yes, get well soon. We didn't do a Who Are You for Iggy Pop. Has he been in other things besides singing? Has he been in acting-y things?
I'm sure he's been in something else. I will IMDb him. Okay, so yeah, he's got a really long IMDb, but of course that's loads of songs in movies, basically. He's a regular in singing songs for the Rugrats movies, which is a bit bizarre when you consider his career.
Yeah.
He plays a newborn baby in the Rugrats movie. Right. He was in Crow's City of Angels.
That was supposed to be rubbish.
Tank Girl, that was rubbish, I saw that. Oh my. Hardware, yes, he was Angry Bob in Hardware, of course. Ah. He was in Sid and Nancy, logically enough. There we are, yeah, no, surprisingly more films than you'd think.
Yeah.
But nothing major, it has to be said. I think we can't really call Deep Space Nine major, it's not exactly hugely well known, is it? But there we go.
No. He was good as a Vorta.
Yeah, he was fantastic.
And I'm glad he wasn't wearing the see-through trousers.
Yeah.
Was that Top of the Pops he did that? I'm trying to remember now.
He usually wore something horrible looking, yes. But it's a shame he wasn't playing a Jemadar, because then he could have Lust for White. I've got lust for white.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Yes. Empire Nor isn't quite... It filmed a lot better in Empire Nor. There was a lot more smoke and eeriness and Dutch angles.
And darker.
Yes. I mean, obviously they're not really going for darkness. This, it's just all barrels.
Yeah.
Everywhere there is barrels for some reason, just to make it not look like Deep Space Nine, I suppose. But yeah, it's a bit of a step down from creepy and spooky to full of barrels.
Yeah, I get that it's got debris on it, but if it wasn't properly lit before, why would it be lit now?
Yeah. Madness.
And also, aren't them creepy as fuck things still there?
No, the Kardashians Super Trooper guys, no, I think they must have all been got rid of.
Oh, okay.
Well, one would hope, anyway.
Yeah, you would a bit.
Anyway, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
What did Drew and Tracy think of this one?
This is our feedback for Magnificent Ferengi.
So what did you think of that one then?
Yeah, I mean, it was right, wasn't it? It's comedy Ferengi episode.
Yeah,
it wasn't bad.
Yeah,
Not
it was
bad.
a bit Ferengi heavy, but...
I was a little bit, because it's a bit of a famous episode,
Is it?
I think. Well, I think so, like a famous Ferengi one.
Okay.
Iggy Pop and that lot. And I was really looking forward to it, thinking, it's going to be a good one. It wasn't quite as good as I was thinking it was going to be, but it was good.
It's a bit cheesy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was fun.
It was fun.
So Brunt turns up
Yeah.
to help, like, rescue Moogie from the Dominion, and I'm thinking, what the fuck is going to happen if Wei Yun turns up? And I'm like, because I'm just like, this is going to fucking blow my mind.
It was blowing your mind, wasn't
And then when they met the Dominion and the Vortal who had Moogie, and for a second I was like,
I know.
It's him!
I know
and
you
then
was.
you
I
was
know
like,
you was.
oh, it's Iggy Pop, and I was like,
Yes,
okay.
I know. You just
But I was
completely...
just like, what is going to happen if like they meet
You know
each
what?
other?
I don't know. Perhaps they will meet each other in it. I don't know.
That was blowing my brain.
It was, wasn't it? You're talking of Iggy Pop. I really liked Iggy Pop, actually. I don't know if he's the best actor, but he played... I think he was a good character in this, you know.
He's just a Vorta.
Yeah, I liked him. I'm a bit of an Iggy Pop fan, and I like him. I think he's good.
Well, there you go.
And also, the guy, Keevan as well.
Keevan, yeah.
I mean, he was really good. He was
very sarcastic.
Yes, he was out of that one with where he
Milky,
double crossed.
Yeah, where
all
they
the,
were like, he held all the
Jem'Hadar,
doodahs to ransom, didn't he? Basically,
and
you
was saying about this. Why didn't they push him off the cliff?
Fuck, he should have done. They
Well,
wouldn't have
if they hadn't
had
have done, it
situation.
wouldn't have this. He was good though. He was very good. I thought, especially his acting at the end.
Oh, that
of
was so
being
funny when he
like
had the neural
puppet.
transmitters
I know,
and stuff like
when
that.
he
That
was
was
really
funny.
laughing, wasn't he?
I did say it was a good job they had all that old medical equipment.
Yes, yeah.
In the bay.
I wondered why they mentioned that.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah, and that's obviously why there was prime in it, wasn't they?
It was funny. Yeah, this was a daft episode.
Yeah,
It was
daft
alright.
but fun, I think.
Yeah,
yes.
I think after the seriousness of the last couple of episodes that we've kind of had to sit through, this is a bit light-hearted. Ferengi episodes always were a bit...
Yeah, not always the biggest fan, but I think
yeah.
this is a good one.
I like how they always make sure that the main crew do have like at least a cameo.
Yeah, I guess
in these
so,
episodes.
yes.
The only person you didn't really see tonight is Worf.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
But anyway, it was alright.
Yep,
Bit of
definitely.
Sunday afternoon viewing.
Leave it there then.
Aye.
Okay,
Thank
okay.
you. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, I'm sorry to disappoint you, and I think it's a massive spoiler, but we don't ever get a Brunt and Wei Yun scene, which is a shame, but it would feel a bit contrived. I can't help feeling it. On the basis it didn't happen in this story, it's never going to happen, really, is it? So
No. But I mean, the makeup for each character.
Yeah, no, it would have taken ages. But, yeah, this is no reason why you get those two characters together, I can't help feeling so.
No. But yeah, all in all, it was fun, wasn't it?
Oh, yes.
What did Purry make of this one?
Hello again, Purry here to talk about the Magnificent Ferengi. Yeah, this is probably the Ferengi episode which may lose the most people, but actually, I've got to say, I really enjoyed it. Not nearly as much squealing as I expected, and I think that's what the Ferengi episodes occasionally got a bit of a reputation for, but this one I quite enjoyed. So, the basic plot is that Moogie has been kidnapped, and that they have to mount a rescue, and Quark's feeling a bit off that other people's heroics trump his negotiation for, I don't know, was it slug syrup or something? Spoo, who knows? But anyway, the idea of the sort of they get to team together to try and raid them, but made only a Ferengi was quite fun. I did like all the Magnificent Seven references. When as they're recruiting, holding up the fingers and that sort of thing. And I'm sure the crazy Ferengi who eliminates people, I think he looked a lot like the way he was kind of presented when he was on screen was a lot like one of the Magnificent Seven. Can't remember the actor's name though, sadly. But, and I mean, really, a lot of this is based on how well Armin Shimmerman and Max Groenchek interact with each other, and they really play off each other well. I mean, when Quark tells Rom that Moogie is the Negus' mistress, and, I mean, yes, he does that sort of dull voice quite well. And indeed, Aaron Eisenberg's also in there. They're sort of... He plays off them quite well as well, and the rest of the cast fill in their gaps, but really it is the three of their shows. Of course, we have an interesting, we have a return of Kevin, or Kivan. He's brought back, and indeed, considering you really hated him from the ship, it's quite nice to see him done away with, and then his corpse used as kind of a robot. And of course, they capture another Vorta to return. This one, well, on this ship back, he'll be a passenger. Either way, I'm sure you're going to. He might have a bit of a lust for life, but yes, it was a gay pop in a guest starring role. You're gonna love that. So yeah, overall, it's just good fun. It does have that nice little touch of the Dominion War still going on. Again, I think possibly these two, for all they didn't really move the plot along that much. It was nice to see them acknowledge the arc plot again. The arc plot, which some of the creators are trying to pretend isn't there, but it's nice to see it involved. And indeed, this one, I mean, I suppose we'd really like it to be getting on. I think if we'd had 2 episodes, I'm trying to think of the ones that come next. Maybe one of the ones that came next, at least sitting between the 4 episodes we've had, I think it would have maybe worked better than now, because at the moment, while we have now had some mentions, it has been some sort of lighter comedy episodes, or episodes which are about a specific character but which really haven't moved much along, and so I'd have preferred to have seen something done with that. But yeah, I can't hate this. I mean, bear in mind the rest of the cast pretty much got a day off. Well, not quite, but they get sort of a minor cameo at best, whereas it's just Ferengi the rest of the time. But like I say, overall, pretty good fun. So I can't complain about these two too much, but they're maybe not ones you'd go back to regularly. So all that remains for me to say is do keep up the good work. I always look forward to the podcast, and hope to feedback to the next one. So until then, bye for now.
Bye. It might not be one you go back to too often, but it is incredibly funny. I mean, our son was wetting himself.
He was.
He absolutely loved it.
We had to pause it a couple of times, didn't we?
Yelgren, a passenger. Yes, okay, very good.
Yes.
I must admit, I've never seen Magnificent Seven.
No, I haven't.
So there's a whole level on which this film isn't, registering with me, and it's. I guess when I do eventually see Magnificent Seven, I'll just be going, oh, that reminds me of Magnificent Ferengi.
Yeah.
Yes, rather like the same way that, our kids see classic movies now, and it's that scene from The Simpsons. No, it's the other way around.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's Syrup of Squill. Of course, Syrup of Squill.
Yeah, that makes me think of Syrup of Figs.
Yes, something like that.
And actually, that's how our daughter pronounces squirrel, because she can't say it.
Syrup of Squirrel.
Yeah, she says squill, because she can't say squirrel.
Thank you all, and
thank you
to all our feedbackers. Next time we're recording about Deep Space Nine will be the 9th of February, and we shall be covering the episodes Waltz. She's looking blank.
Is that a one?
I've just edited out what she said, by the way, folks, because I want that to be a surprise. But
I don't actually fucking know why he asked me, but anyway.
No, I was just interested to know if you knew, which you did. But I don't want that to flavour other people's approach to that episode.
Fine.
And I wonder what Who Mourns for Mourn might be about.
Oh, I remember that one. It's brilliant.
Yes, I seem to remember it's okay. Yes, kind of a comedy one, though, interestingly.
No, but the last time I watched it, I loved it.
And we shall also be covering the next Discovery episode on Monday.
Yep.
Oh, boy. Yes, that is completely tying my brain in knots, as you'll know if you listen to our last Discovery podcast. We shall catch you next time. Cheerio.
Bye, bye.
Music at the beginning of this podcast was produced by the 86th Floor on YouTube and is used with their kind permission. All music referenced is for illustrative purposes only, and no copyright infringement is intended.
Find our website at bOrgCast.libsyn.com.
And we have a YouTube channel as well.
You can find the bOrgCast playouts on Spotify for your listening pleasure.
Visit our Tumblr site at bOrgCast.tumblr.com, where you'll find images accompanying the episodes discussed in this cast.
Send emails or MP3s to bOrgCast@gmail.com.
Or you can contact us via Twitter on rev_org or bOrgCastAmmo. #bOrgCast.
Shut it down!